Welcome to Crucible Cloudworks Live. My name is Chris, and each week we'll be interviewing professionals in their respective fields to get a behind-the-scenes look at what their day-to-day life is like and what it took to get there. It is my goal to empower you to find a role that you feel confident in, and maybe by listening to our guests speak, you too can find your way. Wherever you are right now, you're in the right place. So let's get started. So today, our guest is Carol Springer.
Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. We're going to talk all about Salesforce today, I think.
Of course. I think actually you're the first guest in a while that we can like really zoom in and focus the conversation on Salesforce. We've just had all sorts of other interesting guests in other interesting fields, but for today it's all Salesforce, and I'm surprised you're not Salesforced out. Did you just come back from Dreamforce or?
No, I did not go to Dreamforce. I did do the local Mile High Dreaming here in Denver. That was about a month ago now, and I've been watching some of the virtual details and some huge stuff that's going on with Salesforce. So it's kind of exciting.
Yeah, like I don't know. For myself, I'm like Dreamforced out, right? Like I went like 5 years in a row or something, and
oh my gosh, yeah,
it's too much for me these days, especially like just like 500,000 people all at once, and just not being able to breathe like that. Like, yeah, I it's like when people travel, it's like you want to go to London or you want to go to like a secluded retreat somewhere. I'm like, okay, secluded retreat somewhere, right? So no Hong Kong, no Tokyo for me. So yeah.
Right.
I can't do that all the time. And the thing is though, especially with Dreamforce, the one thing I always tell people is in Dreamforce, don't spend too much time like, trying to get like watch the keynotes and all that, because like you could always catch up later when you see the streams later on YouTube or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the most important thing at Dreamforce isn't the speaker on stage, it's the two people sitting next to you watching.
I'm really all about networking. That's why I just go to those and like someone give me the highlights later for sure.
Yeah, but so the question then becomes, how did you personally get introduced to Salesforce? Did someone give you the highlights then, or?
Well, no, not exactly. So we first heard about Salesforce. I first heard about when I was working in a .com in Silicon Valley, and I remember like our company was evaluating Salesforce, and they were only like not even a year old, so it's kind of crazy how long they've been around. We used to use Goldmine to manage all our sales. So I come from a sales background. So been in sales for 20 plus years. And I think most of the clients that we had, or most of my employers all had Salesforce. So it was just kind of native. And then I started with my partner, an outsourced sales company called Gabriel Sales in Silicon Valley, where we were interim salespeople for clients or acting VP of sales, or we would just do lead gen and set appointments. So we had a whole slew of offerings. And one thing we did was we set up everyone on Salesforce as the first thing. So this is how we're going to communicate with you, and this is how we're going to track all our leads.
Right.
And then about 11 years ago, we started learning other systems to complement the sales. So we started doing webinars, and we said, we really should do email marketing, because we were really all about outsourced sales. And cold calling is just brutal, right? So we didn't want to just do cold calling. And then we learned about this marketing automation. We started evaluating. There was Marketo and Pardot, and I don't know if HubSpot was even doing marketing automation really back then. Anyway,
I'm trying to recall, because HubSpot's automation is like fairly new in the space, but yeah, like you, I remember some of the older automation platforms. Like for a while, Eloqua was the big deal, right?
Oh yes, So Eloqua was like for the big enterprise, and then Marketo was, at probably mid-sized companies.
Mid-tier, I recall working with Marketo, so yeah.
Yeah, and then Pardot was like, oh, hey, we're going to really help the SMB market. And so that was really our target audience anyway. So we decided to go with Pardot. And so we were in it for a while, and then we heard Salesforce acquired them. Well, Salesforce, Exact Target bought Pardot, and then
Pardot,
and then Salesforce bought Exact Target. So all of a sudden now it's inside of Salesforce. So, and I'm so glad I started really tapping into like, I just really want to do more consulting, and let's kind of start to abandon this whole like outsource calling business, because it's pretty brutal and very competitive.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
At the risk of interrupting you, because it's funny, because I haven't heard of like outsourced sales teams in quite some time. So I think that you're not the only one to kind of like move away from that model, right? So
and there's so much AI, and there's still lead gen, and pay per click for lead gen, and one thing we've kind of learned is that like everyone has all the leads they need. It's like there's only so much lead gen you can do. So now
Right.
really what's the next step is nurture these people, because it's really easy with like Zoom Info, Sales Intel, these different databases to find these people that are your
Right.
target audience.
Right.
But do you have relationships with them? No. So you really need to figure out how to start a relationship with them. And LinkedIn is so huge right now, right? Everyone's doing
Yeah.
stuff on LinkedIn. And yeah, so we were doing, so about 5 or 6 years ago, we said, okay, we really know Salesforce very well, and we know Pardot, and we know how
Yeah.
Pardot can help augment the whole sales process. And so we started doing more consulting on that. And we started going deep just at the right time, because once Salesforce acquired Pardot, they started changing it like crazy. So
Yeah. Yeah.
now, like, if we just took the knowledge from our first, when it was just pi.pardot.com, and today try to use Pardot, I would be so lost, right? But
Yeah.
we were like there as they were transitioning everything. Like first there was this thing called connected campaigns. And
Yeah.
like, who needs that? And then user sync. And now there's all this drag and drop stuff within the Salesforce platform itself. And there's a lot to know, because
Yeah.
it's kind of works in some cases, but doesn't work if you want to do this or
Yeah,
that.
and
So,
it's like even now, I don't think Pardot is now like part of Marketing Cloud, right? It's like Marketing Cloud Connect, I think.
well, it's called Marketing Cloud Account Engagement.
Accounting. Well, I think honestly, having I've had the same experience where you have to explain to someone that, oh, yeah, okay, just because it's called Salesforce Marketing Cloud doesn't mean the data lives in the same place. You actually have to worry about like things connecting back and forth. And like, oh, come on, oh, Salesforce is all the same thing. It's like, no, it's not. Like, yeah. So the thing is, I'm glad that you also have the same experience, that you have to almost come to a lot of it with kind of like a jaded eye, and you just have to expect a lot of pain sometimes. But
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, that's par for the course in the technology industry. I think there's like either people that think it's magic or the people who deal with it, right? So
I remember
yeah,
one telling a client once, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Now today it works. I mean, something magic happened. He's like, I don't like that answer. He's like very
yeah,
technical. He's like, I need to understand, why did it work today and didn't work yesterday? I need to get to the bottom. I'm like, okay, sure. We'll try to backwards engineer it and see if it happens. But the one thing that it is so fascinating about the whole Salesforce universe, sometimes I think, well, maybe we should also learn HubSpot, because a lot of, those are the two big players out there.
yeah,
But there's so much new stuff all the time with just Salesforce and Pardot, and we don't even touch that much of Salesforce. We're like sales operations and
yes,
reporting and marketing influence, and then dabble with like LinkedIn connections and connections from events or webinars, but not even like really going into the ERP or QuickBooks
yeah.
or custom objects. That
Or
is,
now you have to know own backup, right? Because they just bought that.
I know. I just saw
Yeah,
them at the Mile High Dream In,
yeah.
and they've been, calling me. And then I heard that they're owned by Salesforce. When did this happen? Like literally
Yeah.
like 3 weeks ago or something. Yeah.
And
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 that's one thing kind of scary. I don't think a lot of people don't realize Salesforce doesn't back up their stuff for more than 6 months or a
yeah,
year, or whatever it is.
unless you've paid for Salesforce Shield, but then you're
Oh,
you're
okay.
buying you're buying another SKU to add on to that. Like, do you ever find that sometimes and again, my goal here isn't to necessarily trash Salesforce AEs, but
Oh,
they
no.
have left a lot of consultants in a bad place, I think, because like I know there's a lot of clients out there that and end users that just end up getting oversold by their AE, and then they have like a big bill they're paying every month, and then the consultant is expected to try to get value from this big bill of all the stuff that they don't need that they're paying for, right? So
Yes, that's always very painful. But I
yeah,
did have one client, they were on, I think, unlimited, and they're like, we're going off, we're canceling, And then I'm
yeah,
like, I don't really, for what you guys want to do, like Salesforce really is the answer. And they decided, since you can't downgrade, right?
hmm.
So they relaunched their professional, or I don't know, maybe even the growth edition, or what is called the essentials. I'm not sure what
Yeah,
they end up relaunching. He's like, we're going to stick with it. But they cut their bill in half. So it can be done.
yeah,
So
yeah.
don't contract for 5 years. I just saw a client contract for 5 years. Like, whoa, that's big.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's funny because it's like an integration is so heavy, it's so expensive, and you invest so much into it. It's like, why not think 5 years down the line? But at the same time, as you said, everything's moving so fast, right? So in a way, it doesn't make sense to make that long-term commitment either, because you don't know what's around the corner. So
right. I know that's what sometimes I go, how relevant is Salesforce going to be in 5, 10 years? I
yeah.
don't know. Because like think of like Zoom, right?
Hmm.
Zoom, the not Zoom info, but the conferencing. It
Yeah.
was back in the day. It was WebEx, and then it was GoToMeeting came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden, pandemic, Zoom is everywhere. I don't know if
Yeah.
because they got into the schools. It's like, well, what happened to GoToMeeting? Well, it's still alive. It's still a company, but you just don't hear about it. No one uses
Yeah,
it anymore.
and the thing is, even with Zoom itself, it's like you have Zoom, and most people only use it for meetings, but yet there's some companies, there's some teams that like use Zoom like they would use Microsoft Teams or Slack, right? Because Zoom
Hmm.
has its own built-in chat and conference and calling now and everything too. So, I
Right.
mean, yeah, as you said, everything's changing all the time.
Yeah, and
So,
Teams, Microsoft, like I have more, I feel like half my meetings now are in Teams because the
yeah.
clients use Teams. And then I've seen people use like, I think it's Microsoft Project, but it's like in Teams. So they're doing all their project management within Teams and running flows. I'm like, so it's
Hmm.
kind of some of what Salesforce does. And
There's
it's
yeah,
so
there's a
interesting.
lot of
Everyone wants to be
overlap
everything.
everything in
Yeah.
space. Yeah, yeah. Even Salesforce acquired Slack, and at first, I'm like, why would they do that? It doesn't really make sense, right? But then now you see, yeah, they're trying to replace Chatter with Slack, whole bunch of things like that. So yeah, it
Yeah, I
makes
haven't.
sense.
Have you seen that actually installed in any Salesforce? I haven't actually
Um,
seen anyone like have
s-
it in,
I
in their
haven't.
instance.
I've seen a few like theoretical ways of how to use it and the like, but my understanding is the whole Slack integration with Salesforce is a very expensive SKU that you have to add
Oh,
on.
it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think you have to talk to your AE and find out how much more that is and stuff. So yeah,
Okay. All
but
right. And
I don't
have you
know.
been able to, so you're a partner then? Do you like do you like trial like Data
I'm
Cloud or
I'm
anything?
not really a partner. So the thing is,
Hmm.
I usually, how do I phrase this? I'm kind of like on the second tier of things, right? So I'm
Hmm.
not an official Salesforce partner. I don't know if I will ever be, simply because
Okay.
I don't have the best view of them as a company. As you said, they keep evolving and changing all the time, and it's difficult to keep up. The standards they have for partners are also very stringent, and the thing is, as well, like I've been involved with partners before, and the thing is to try to get your account executive on the line to like talk to about hey, we're having difficulties with this, or or managed package is stuck in limbo or something like that. It's just they still give you the same treatment that they would like one of their customers when you open a case, right? And even opening a case with premier support is terrible. So I don't.
It's a challenge to open the case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's like I've been able to get by on my own. A lot of the work that we seem to get is actually cleaning up after official Salesforce partners have not done a
Oh,
good job. So, I,
nice.
you know what, I'm a Salesforce rebound guy, right? And the thing is, I hate to say it, like that's how I kind of make my bones right now. I'm a Salesforce rebound guy. Um, but it seems to fit right now, right?
Yeah,
So
no, we
whether
see
I'm
some of
going to move
that.
on from here, I mean, I don't know, but I'm kind of happy being the shoulder to cry on. So that just
Okay.
seems to be my place in the world right now.
Yeah. So
So
we're
yeah,
Salesforce partners, but we're base partners. And so
okay,
Salesforce doesn't throw us any bones. We don't do any actual like new live implementations. But people find us and they said, oh, yeah, we had this
okay.
implementer that set a part up, but I don't think they really understood what it does. And, so that's really our expertise is the Pardot section.
Yeah, I think because for a while, and this was a few years ago, I think they were pushing Pardot very aggressively. And I
Hmm.
know there's a lot of companies out there that have Pardot. Maybe they had it working with a guy on staff for a while, but that
Yeah.
guy quit, and now they have this
Yes.
like entire database full of Pardot. Like their marketing has gone from like that to that overnight, right? So yeah, I feel you. I know where you're coming from.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, it's good. I'm like, yeah, bring it on. We can just jump in. We can run all your marketing programs, no problem.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'd love
it's
to
pretty
talk
cool.
sometime, maybe off the record, see what Salesforce
Yeah,
gives like base partners. So,
yeah.
most of the people I've talked to, have been like, they come into the ecosystem like a silver level partner or something like that.
Mm.
But then, they have to do like X number of sales. And this is why I know so much about the whole Pardot woes, because
Mm.
this was a few years ago, silver level partners as an entry level. They got leads from Salesforce, but all these leads were strictly just to set up Salesforce plus Pardot. Right? It's just
Oh,
Salesforce
okay.
plus Pardot, Salesforce plus Pardot, and they got like X amount of dollars for every integration. And just the problem is
Oh.
when you're given a lead to do like a base level install and there's like no customization, anything else like that, and you're just turning it over cookie cutter and something like that.
Mhm.
Plus, you got to give Salesforce a cut at the end of the day after that. It's
Oh.
like,
Ooh.
yeah, that's
I don't know
why.
about that. Okay.
Yeah, that's why a lot of them were like, silver level partners, I think, and they just said, yeah, this isn't worth it. I mean, I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe I don't know what base level is like. Maybe we could have that
oh, I
discussion
guess
another
base is
day. But
probably a good thing. Yeah, there's
yeah,
really no
yeah. I
downside.
mean, maybe there's like other metals that I could be that, like Salesforce bronze level or something, or tin level or something.
But it's all based on the trailhead. Yeah, so I'm at like the foothills right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe if I have like,
The
a
silver and the
copper
14ers.
level partnership that I don't have to, do much and they don't bug me. Maybe I could do that, right? So yeah.
Yeah, I think the main requirement is we just have to have like 3 certifications, within the
Yes.
team. And
Yes,
so,
that's the
yeah.
big thing. Like I can't help but feel sometimes like this whole Salesforce partner program is really just there to sell certs. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, but the base you actually get some really good certs coupons, so
you know,
that's worth it.
I can tell that your background is in sales because you're doing a far better job selling me on it than Salesforce ever did, right?
Oh, the partner program. Yeah, well, I'm saying,
Yeah,
well, it used to cost like $2,000 to become a Salesforce partner, and
right.
now there's no fee, no fee
Huh.
anymore. Yeah, so
Okay. All right.
yeah.
I might
And
have
we've
to.
done it so long, so maybe we got grandfathered into something.
Yeah.
But so maybe it's changed for brand new potential partners. But I know with this Agent Force, right? I don't know if you've heard the jingle yet. That's their new product. They're offering like free
I've
training.
heard about the new product. Like, who hasn't, right? Everybody knows someone coming back from Dreamforce has heard about Agent Force and the like. So already I have it on my schedule. I'm just gonna do all the free AI certs I can. Why
Right.
not, right? So
Yeah. And I'm
yeah,
thinking they're gonna probably try to make a superhero movie out of the Agent Force.
the
The
thing is,
jingle is so much like it's a kid movie. It's kind of funny.
okay, all right. I'm gonna make a note that maybe for B-roll we gotta find that jingle and play it alongside here. So
Welcome to a force of meaningful and effective intelligence. Welcome to a force for purpose, for trust, and for good. Welcome to Agent Force. To what AI was meant to be.
there's gotta be something. Yeah, just so that the listeners out there can know what we're talking about. But
Right.
yeah, but
So
so the thing is,
opposite the aloha. They're really into the Hawaiian theme stuff normally. The
yeah, but they've
ohana. Like I haven't heard anything about ohana this whole
yeah, I
Dreamforce.
remember when they were first introducing communities. They had different templates, all named after Hawaiian names, like
Mm.
Napili stuff like that. So
Oh,
yeah,
really? Okay,
yeah,
interesting.
they leaned heavy into the Hawaiian thing a while, but now I think they're kind of like pivoting, going for that AI Agent Force thing. So
Right. Yeah. Now we're going into the sky with everyone else. All the other
yeah,
big. Yes. Just think of like some of the billionaires are all like flying in the sky, and this is Benioff's way to fly into the sky through his AI agent.
yeah, but and even with the things like free AI certifications, I can't help but think that that's maybe some way to like position Salesforce as like the AI firm on the
I
market
I
like that
I think they want to be the number one big company that
for AI.
really
Yeah.
is taking AI to actually help make you money, save you money versus just making it convenient for your writers, which I think most people that's what they use it for.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like I think when they get to the point that they can say like, yes, we have like X number of Salesforce certified, AI professionals out there, I think that's probably what their big selling point. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. I mean,
Yeah, and I would like to talk about, certifications. If
of
someone is
course,
interested in becoming a Salesforce certified admin, it's I've met a lot of certified admins that can't really help companies, right?
yeah,
So it's not, I definitely think it's not like your ticket to get a job because really having the experience is huge. And I was like, well, how do you get the experience? So I came in from the sales channel. I
Yeah.
did sales. I was a user of sales, and then I was a manager of sales. And then I became a like pseudo admin, and then I formalized it and then became an admin. And that admin test is hard. And it's not one of these where you can like memorize the answers and then, memorize like 3,000, like 400 answers and then see those questions. Those questions are not the same that you see in the practice test.
Yeah.
It's really about, think of like almost like a calculus problem. Like it's been a long time since we did calculus, but like, which, I can't remember the word, like which system am I supposed to use to try to answer this? Do they call them like hypotheses or, there's different areas of your methodology to tap into to even know how to solve the problem. And that's what the test is about. Like, how do you even know where to tap? And so some questions by deduction, you go, okay, well, I know it's not that because that has nothing to do with what they're asking. So then I have it down to 2, and then you kind of just think about the logic. And having been in the system for so long, you just kind of take that past experience in there. So if you want to get into it, it's really takes some math brain too, I would say.
Yeah.
And,
it's like there's a lot of that whole show us your work thing going on now.
Yeah. Right.
And the thing is, do you feel like, I know now with the job market being what it is, there's such a surge of entry level admins, developers in the Salesforce ecosystem that are looking for work. Do you feel that perhaps, I know that this is very different from 3 years ago when everyone is like, hey, take your admin exam, you could get a job, right? Do you think that some of this like low barrier to entry or low supposed barrier to entry, let's call it, from a few years ago has affected the whole Salesforce ecosystem in a negative fashion, perhaps? Or
I don't think so. I mean, maybe just like the high hopes of the people getting those certifications. It's everyone's like, oh, I've done all this, and they just keep getting more and more badges. And I'm like, more is not necessarily better. Like. And I've seen a couple of people I met, they would just work for free for a developer or like a volunteer situation. And I think that's helpful. But like, and then another person I worked with, they were certified and then realized all they'd like to do is project management. And I'm like, well, you don't need to know Salesforce to do project management. But having that background is great because I feel like there is a shortage of project managers. And also like understanding the business case. And someone was talking about, I don't know, it was Prompt Builder or something else. They said it's like 80% of the work is the planning on how to build this out. And that's true in a lot of Salesforce. It's like, yeah, sure. Oh, can you just make this flow? I'm like, yeah, we can make the flow. It'd probably take maybe an hour, but what should that flow do? Yeah. And what about this situation? In this situation, have you thought about this? And then what if, that user doesn't work there anymore? Do we need to incorporate that? Like thinking about all the different effects. And I was telling my brother about this, who's an engineer. He's like, you're a systems engineer. I'm like, oh, really? Because like that is what, you can have like, so an admin can just be an engineer, but like the systems engineer is going to help the client really figure out how to set it up and how not to make it complicated. And I usually say, like, what we're going to do depends on the talent you have in-house. Do we want to do a lot of heavy lifting and super planning up front to make it really easy to manage? Or we can just whip something together, but then you're going to need to have admins know how to maintain this if it breaks down or you add a third element to this or a fourth element, because people said now they have a new business unit and should they make a new record type or should they just, add this multi-pick list? And I'm always like, no multi-pick list, please, just pick list. So I think there's really depending on, and then what kind of, documenting what you do is so critical, right? Because no one's going to stay at this company for 30 years. I'm sorry, it just doesn't happen anymore. Yeah. Someone is going to leave and someone else is going to try to figure it out. And I think I saw a meme about using like the description when you're making a field. Yeah. It's just like, how many times do I have to tell you got to use the description? And that's like, it's such an easy thing to do. If I'm making something, just say why you're making it, like just put it in there. It only takes 2 seconds and it's really going to help the person, 2 years from now, 3 years from now to know if this was a temporary thing that you did, or we actually need this. Is this critical to the business? And the same in Pardot. There's automation rules and engagement studio where there's a place for description. So let's always use the description if it's there.
Mm-hmm. So to move along to Gabriel Sales then, how would you define the difference then between revenue operations, sales operations, and marketing operations? Because it looks like you've had your hands in all three pots throughout your career.
Yeah. So generally, I would say revenue operations is more all-encompassing. It encompasses sales operations and marketing operations and kind of like the customer care department. So think of the whole like Salesforce is the 360-degree view. So for our accounts that we have here, how do we really maximize the revenue for these accounts and get new accounts? Where marketing is really tends to be more about lead gen and bringing in new opportunities. Sales is about closing those opportunities. And then salespeople also are account managers. And then you have account managers try to grow accounts. And then the customer support people is kind of the new thing is every time those customers, and also I worked in the customer call center world for a while. And the big thing is like, let's always, if someone's calling in for a problem, let's gather information so we can cross-sell and upsell them.
Right.
And that's
it's
kind
like
of
the whole, do you want fries with that approach, right? So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's where, revenue ops is like, what are we doing in each department to ensure that? Where marketing ops is a lot of like email management, time into the emails, how do we get the approval process? How do we run the reports? Which pay-per-click campaigns are producing? Where sales is more about like, are we following up with these leads? Are we moving, what percentage is moving to opportunities? And then how productive each salesperson is, are we making 50 calls a day, 100 calls a day? And what can we automate? Can we just are people like hand typing emails?
Yeah.
Or we can have all these templates in the system. And as soon as someone leaves a call, like a voicemail, you just hit a button that says left voicemail. And then that can trigger an email to go out, hey, I just left you a voicemail, just a reminder, blah, blah, blah. We met at Dreamforce. And so the sales operation person can like set up that cadence for like pre-show, post-show, or, cold calling. And then also sales operations might run the sequencing tool like a Salesloft or outreach.io. No, I haven't heard about Outreach forever. Are they still kicking butt? Have you heard about them at all?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. And to be totally honest with you, you're coming at Salesforce almost from a sales perspective, which is quite odd because I usually work as a developer, like strictly back end, and I've seen all sorts of other things, but the way you approach it is a lot more customer focused, right? It's almost like you have to kind of you're sort of like a force multiplier to help the client maximize their impact versus a lot of other things I do are, personally more like, hey, we need to connect Salesforce with this other external system. How do we do the integration, stuff like that? In your case, it's more focusing on the automations that you need to kind of like speed things up throughout the day, right?
Yeah. And so less actual technical work that we do, but we know what technical options are available. And we're like, let's try to set this up so it's as least complicated as possible. And I had a client the other day, like trying to work on grading in sales in Pardot, and it's very complicated. And really the whole grading is about profiling people. And that was a thing when Pardot was a standalone. But now that we have Salesforce, we can run amazing filters and reports in Salesforce. I see absolutely no point for Pardot grading. It's complicated. Right. It's hard to manage. It's hard to QA, and you could just really do it easy. And so instead of, like you said, instead of me just saying, oh, here's how to fix this, I'm like, why don't you do it a whole better way over here in Salesforce? And she's like, aha, yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to bring to the table.
By bringing that into Salesforce these days, you have the AI tools to do a lot of that filtering and organization for you as well, right?
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about that. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I haven't actually set up Prompt Builder. I don't know if it's even available to everyone or if it's an add-on expense.
You just get a developer edition and try it out. That's what I always do. I've got like every month I got like 12 emails from different developer orgs I set up. Oh, these are expiring. What do you want to do? So yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Well, I have a pretty robust developer edition where I do all my training and has all my nice little fun names in there. And what's so cool about the developer edition? the Pardot section of it, it actually like fills out landing pages. And so like it shows history, it shows
Mhm.
activity. I don't know if normal Salesforce developer shows like calls logged, but it's great. So when you're writing a report, there's actually data in there. So
Have you done any CTI or call integration with other platforms as well? Like Salesforce integrating with, I think they call it like Salesforce Voice now, but it's just a fancy name for like Salesforce connecting to Amazon Connect, right? So,
I haven't been in a client where I've managed that at all. No,
okay.
I've had clients that connected to Ring Central where it was just more like click the phone number, then it rang as
Yeah.
a VoIP phone on their, so I've seen it work that way. But I
Yeah,
have a guy that
I
does
remember Ring
Avaya.
Central. Ring Central has a big managed package that can go right in and stuff. Yeah, and
Yeah,
it's
and I have
Avaya, 5.9, all the same. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So I was on a project. I was helping project manage when they were doing a 5.9, and then I have a guy that is like an Avaya partner. So we've talked about it, and some the kind of stuff he does is like for big call centers. So I don't really have a lot of clients with huge call centers,
Okay.
but I'm
So,
excited for Agentforce to help
yeah,
the
I mean,
field
I,
reps.
I think everyone is. I mean, I almost wish I knew more about it, such that we could discuss
I know,
Agentforce,
we'll
and
talk
that'd be
about
like
it.
so
Yeah, maybe like
clickbaity,
2 months.
right?
Let's take some
Yeah,
tests, let's do some trials, and let's talk about
yeah.
Agentforce.
Yeah. At the same time, so your current team, how large is your current team then that you work
Oh, we
with?
have about 10 people. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's probably 4 full-time people and a little bit more, 5 full-time people, and then some contractors.
Yeah,
And,
I think.
people I've worked with for like 5 years, like I trust them, to death. So,
Yeah,
well, not to
I
death.
think honestly, it's funny in the Salesforce space because a lot of people just prefer being contractors, I found, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, especially ones that, you give them the flexibility to work remotely. Is your team like
Well,
hybrid or
we
remote
are
or?
100% remote.
Okay.
And that wasn't always the case. Right before COVID, we decided to go remote, which we did not have a magic, what's
Crystal
magic
ball.
ball.
Yeah.
We didn't have a
Yeah.
crystal ball, but we decided to go remote, and then COVID hit. So we're like, woo, good thing. And so I have one of my employees like works overseas half the year, and he loves it. And because we're in Boulder, so he likes to be in Boulder in the summer, but not all year round. So
Right.
that works out well. And then we have an employee in Mississippi, so we can hire employees in Colorado and Mississippi, and then the other ones are just around the country. Yeah. And
Are
so I
there?
figured
Go
out how
ahead.
to master, so we have set up tons of operational processes to make sure we all like communicate, and we mark down everything we do every day. So it seems like, could feel micromanaged, but I know exactly how much time everyone's worked on every client every day. So
Right.
it's super good.
Okay. I mean, are there particular strategies that work well for a remote team? Like, I know that you said, it may feel a little micromanagey, but I think that's so important when you're billing actual time to a client, right? To keep track of
Right.
how like X number of hours was worked on, Y task for Z client, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
are there any specific tools that you use for that, or?
Yeah, we use this tool. It's so crazy how we found it. I've never heard anyone else use. It's called Red Booth. It's like their icon is like a little London phone booth.
Okay.
And it has, what I love about it, it's like Trello. So it has all these cards and this Kanban kind of setup. But then you can also log time. And we don't log time to each task. We have like a card system just for time tracking
Okay.
that has each person's name and the client. So then when I run reports, I can see if I run a report for client A, I can see who worked on it. And then if I want to run a report for just, Carol, then I can see all my time. And then it says like what client I worked on. So if I worked 40 hours this week, and it's telling me, which clients I spent X amount of time. And then it can slice and dice really awesome. So I can go by user, by client, or just by client, or just by user. The only problem is only, by the month. I can't go granular by the day or week or anything, but I
Okay.
can export it and then massage it. So that is a really great tool. And then it sends notifications if someone has a comment. So the main reason we got it was to omit a lot of email conversations.
Yeah.
So when we're working on a project, what are we going to do for this preference page? We say the task is the preference page, and then we say this is what the client wants, and then someone's like, oh, I researched this and add that in a comment. We're looking to do this. And then, oh, here, I made this document. And we store all our documents in box.com. And so we have all this redundancy too. So if Red Booth just goes under tomorrow, we have all our documentation in Box.
Right.
And then I still save a bunch of stuff to my desktop, whatever I work on, just because I'm just so paranoid. I like download everything to my computer. So I have big storage on my computer. So we always have like redundancies in communication. And then we download those timesheets from Red Booth, and then we put them in Box, and then we report to the client, how much time we have. And we tend not to like tell them everything. It's just like, we think it's going to be a 20-hour project, and, we're 10 hours in and we're halfway done. So we're on task. So I think that's appropriate and works well.
Okay. So, I mean, one thing I've always maintained is that knowing how to sell is like the most important career skill you can pick up. You don't have to be a salesperson, but at least you have to be vested enough in something to present it to somebody, right? So, and that's what I feel is always essential, but I think it's sort of becoming a lost art, Like, what would you say to the kids out there these days who say, well, I don't really want to sell anything, or I just want to get a job? That's not an attitude for success, I feel.
Oh, 100% agree. I love selling. Like, if I could just sell all day, that would be awesome. But I do love how I'm learning stuff every day, and it's very fun. I guess, but I think people think of sales as like slimy salespeople, like at the car dealer. And, I just went to a kickboxing thing, a free try on. They try to like close me that same day. I'm like, really? You give me a free week and you're going to close me on the first day? Come on, just let me. No. But anyway, so I think sales is really about like communicating, helping understand what someone needs, and then saying, hey, I can help that. And even if you're not in sales, you still have to sell your ideas. So say you're a writer and you want to like write this pitch for, the trade show landing page, and someone in the room who you're intimidated by writes this really crappy copy, and you're like, gosh, we really should like tap into this, popular meme or something, because I'm younger and I know this for example, like being able to say, hey, I see you and when you're selling, like, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate it. However, I think we might want to look at it this way. So you're not like pushing your ideas, but you're helping them understand, and you're really doing them a favor.
Yeah.
Because it could be the winning recipe.
That's a brilliant observation, because I think a lot of people have made that mistake in that sales isn't like supposed to be a predatory thing where, oh yeah, there's a sucker born every minute and let me get their money. It's not like some 18th century robber baron thing where you're twirling your mustache and doing it, looking for suckers every minute. I mean, I think it's more like, just it's a legitimate, hey, you have an issue, let me help you, right? So and maybe I just come at this because I'm the rebound guy and I'm always saying that, right? But I think that's lost a lot of the time. What do you think has led to a lot of people having this misconception of sales being predatory?
Oh, I don't. But I remember even when I was in sales forever, it's like everyone hates salespeople. I'm like, what? No, I'm a salesperson. No one hates me.
It's like lawyers. We should hate them, right?
Right.
So yeah.
So I think
salespeople are cool by me. So yeah.
I think it's been a problem for a long time. I think it is probably getting worse with younger people, like not communicating. I think COVID really hurt like the recent graduates, because they're not like in person, and networking. I kind of feel like networking is totally coming back, right, with the trade shows and everything. But people like, I remember I'd go to these networking events and someone taught me, and they're like, well, just kind of pretend like you're the host, and you go up and you go, oh, hi, I'm Carol. Like, so what brought you here today? Who are you with? What are you hoping to learn? And just having like, conversation starters. And people love talking, and you want to talk about them, right? That's always the important thing. So I think it's probably just a skill that no one like learns.
I think
and people are hiding behind social media.
I think for whatever reason, people just don't like talking to people anymore. I don't know, like you said, whether it's a social media thing or whether it's even a product of, like Instagram culture, where more people are like consumers rather than producers, right? So it's difficult to say, but I think naturally, like, sales at the end of the day is just talking to people. And if people are afraid to talk to people, then, it's you're going to limit your opportunities in life, unfortunately.
Right.
So,
Well, then a lot of it's going to be automated. I think their stats, 80% of B2B sales will be automated. And just if you think of how much has changed now with like used to, like you're going to buy a bike or even an air fryer, right?
Yeah.
You would always go to the store. Maybe you talk to the Macy's person, they would kind of tell you about the different air fryers. And now you just go into Amazon and you just buy the one with the highest reviews and it's at your door tomorrow. There was no human interaction there. And you got a killer deal, but like I'm anti-Amazon.
Well, the thing is, though, there's still some human interaction, just at a different point of things. I mean, there's a lot of human interaction behind the scenes to develop those systems to make it so easy for people, right?
Right.
There's a lot more people like you and me that are involved behind the scenes to make that automation happen. So yeah.
Yes, and so now if we're going to automate B2B sales, really what we're doing is we're educating people through nurturing programs, showing them videos of the VP who doesn't have time to talk to everyone. So now it's the smartest and the most engaging people is who we're trying to replicate through digital content and send them emails and get them to go to LinkedIn and then get them to make a call to action to fill out that Calendly link to get an appointment. So we don't even need the guy to say, oh, hey, I've been, Salesforce used to do this all the time. Oh, hey, I see you've been watching some of our content. Do you want to talk to a sales rep? And and then they would schedule a meeting, but most of that's automated now. You just schedule with Booking. I have Bookings on my Microsoft and then, Calendly, and there's, plenty other ones like that too.
Yeah.
Probably Zoom has something like that.
But at the same time, as much as people like worry that, AI is going to take all the jobs and stuff like that, there's still going to be a human person when you book that appointment on Calendly, right? There's still a lot of value in knowing how to talk to people. I mean, that's why I love this podcast. I just get to talk to people, which is, if you told me 20 years ago I would love talking to people, I wasn't one of those guys, right? I was the guy hiding in the corner at the party, just, but you have to adapt. I think that's the key thing a lot of people forget. You've got these people at these companies who are like, well, these kids these days, they don't know how to sell stuff. I mean, maybe I channeled a little bit of that just 10 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, they have to adapt to a changing world that, like you said, this is a world where, people are getting the nurturing done in advance through automation and everything, right? And you just have to change to your point of contact to when they buy, right? So
right. And I've trained a lot of salespeople on like the first cold call, they're like, hi, is so in there? No. Okay. And they just like hang up. You're like, okay, that's great. And really our goal is to ask up to 3 questions. Oh, you're not responsible? Well, do you know who might be responsible? Oh, do you know what their job title is? Or do you know their phone number? And, oh, can I just send them an email? And just like, it's just practice, And I've seen, I have teenagers, right? And just seeing like them practice different things as they're, trying to try out for a club or something that you just get more comfortable, and it's just a great life skill. Yeah. Even if you're going to be like planning, holiday parties, or why convince people to come to your party? Start another party.
I remember there was someone I was mentoring once, and I'm like, hey, if you can play Call of Duty for 3 hours a day and get to the top of the leaderboard, that's a skill you have to practice. Why can't you practice? Just talk to people, right? So,
right. Yeah.
But then, I don't want to do it. I mean, but I think that at the end of the day, a lot of people just don't want to do it. So, but at the same time, the thing that to bring it back to Salesforce, that like I find fascinating about the community is there's just so much enthusiasm, right? Like a lot of people want to do Salesforce, right? And it's very rare to see that in any other kind of a technology stack, right? Like I don't see a lot of the same people wanting to do like AWS, for example, that come from as broad a background, right? I mean, nobody has a sales background and then learns AWS,
Right.
So.
Yeah. And that's interesting for the Mile High Dreaming. Most of the talks were about, very technical things. And I was like, there's not that much going on. So I'm like, can I do one on Pardot? Anything that like admins need to know about Pardot? And I said, maybe we should also consider more user tracks. So then we get more users going to the conference. Because right now we're getting developers coming to the conference. Yeah. Like, how much bigger can this conference be if we're having all the salespeople and the marketing people come into the conference? So they're like, wow, that's probably tenfold. So, do we want that big of a conference locally? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think you're right in that the way a technology will engage with its end users is far more important than the developer community or everything else around it, right? Like, developers, if they're good, not to toot my own horn, but if a developer's good, they will go and learn it on their own, right? They don't need the conferences to share and collaborate with other people in the field. Whereas it's the users that really get the most value out of it, I feel. And that's something I think Salesforce has, especially with Dreamforce, they've made it such an experience to go to, even though that, we're both Dreamforced out, but I think it's just very inviting to new users in that regard, right? So they can always at least go to Dreamforce. They'll come back to work on Monday with all the swag and all the stories. And I think that's something that, I think Oracle CRM, they'll never do that, right? So even though it's just down the street.
PeopleSoft conference in Las Vegas, that was very impressive, but PeopleSoft, oh my gosh, I don't know what they did anymore. And
they
were big.
Yeah, there's so many out there, like SAP too. It's like, okay, do I really want to? Oh yeah, welcome to SAP, and we'll show you everything. No, it's kind of Will.i.am is not at the SAP show. That's for sure. So
okay, yeah, they definitely do a good job with other characters. They have the Fox. Sure. I can't remember her name, Mandy or something for the marketing.
Yeah. Like I couldn't believe that all the little mascots had their own name when you looked them up on the site, right? So So I guess as we wind down to a close here, is there anything that you would tell a younger Carol about Salesforce? Anything that you would tell younger Carol to really focus on that would have the maximum impact for the future?
Yeah, I would say if you're using it, like try to use it as an end user and log a call and, just keep, do some project management in it. Even if it's like organizing your friends, the account can be one friend group and the another account can be another friend group, and then add your contacts. So you kind of understand what a user goes through, because I think sometimes admins, especially if you're just learning it, you're like, oh, the VP of sales or marketing says we need to collect all this information. And you're making the salespeople like update all these, 14 fields, and they're not going to do it. And you're going to understand why if you like start to use it yourself. And then how do you find a report? And I would just eat your own dog food. And then I think, just get on Trailhead. Like I can't believe how many clients I work with, like, they're not on Trailhead. I'm like, why are you not on Trailhead? And it's like, if nothing else, go to the free group events. There's like free food and drinks,
Yeah.
And you can meet other people. So.
No, it's great. It's great to see that attitude, because I think, especially in the technology world, like as a developer, for years, there's always been people like, well, I'll do this and I'll do the coding my own way. If they don't understand it, they'll call me back, and that's just job security. And I don't think that's a good way to work anymore. It wasn't a good way to work 20 years ago, and I ran into it then. It certainly isn't now. And honestly, I think your approach and just educating your clients and teaching them so they can manage it on their own. I mean, I think that's really the way to go.
Yeah, and honestly, when they don't want to, right? So but like letting them know, hey, I'm going to teach you. I'm not going to hold you hostage. But then they're like, yeah, I could probably spend it, but you're going to just be able to do it faster. I know it's going to cost money, but can you just do it for me, Carol? I'm like, yeah, sure. No problem. And then they come back, and then they're happy clients.
Yeah. And at least you've given them the option. And at least when they get the bill, they say, hey, I chose the hard way. Right. So
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So this was a great conversation. Thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you. I so appreciate
I'd love to follow up sometime, and maybe in a few months we can talk about Agent Force.
Yes, exactly.
And all the wonders that'll bring.
I have two clients that are actually kind of interested in like possibly a use case. I'm like, oh my gosh, please let me get a use case going, and then maybe get Salesforce to help us out too. So
that sounds great. So I appreciate it, Carol.
Sounds great. Okay,
thanks again
Chris.
for the conversation.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah. We'd be happy to give your Salesforce org a second look. Thank you for subscribing. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode.